Hey, good Wednesday afternoon. Had to check myself. Had a busy morning. Um, I want to jump on here today and just talk about some encouraging things that came to mind. Um, Had a lot of interesting cases come and start this week. Some of them are people who, I love hearing this. Folks come in and they'll say things like, I just want to be healthy. Um, I've drawn the line in the sand. I'm loaded down with medications and they're not what I thought they were to begin with. I agreed to them originally thinking I was going to feel a certain way, and now I don't, and I'm on even more. I hear that all the time. And the thing that really brought it to light for me was when I take a look at your initial intake paperwork and I see all 8 prescriptions filled out and then prescriptions written in the margin, or someone who comes in with a already typed out prescription med list, oh my goodness. So what that does is it forces me to set the stage for what really is going to happen. If you're taking ongoing medications and you don't see light at the end of the tunnel, or your prescriber is not giving you an exit strategy, I call it, then you're what I call, you got your house on fire. You are what I refer to as having your house on fire. So if literally your house is on fire, like I said before, you have got to get that under control before we can start the cleanup process and the rebuild process. So what does that mean to you? Most of you have come in the office by either seeing an interview on Channel 3, 3+U, or a commercial on Channel 3, or you've talked to a friend, a neighbor, a coworker and been referred here, or you saw us on our website from a Google search. Very common. So most people see the advertisement tagline that says lose up to 1 pound of fat per day. And a lot of folks misinterpret. They'll come in and say, I want to get on that plane where you lose a pound a day. Well, first of all, it says lose up to a pound a day. And then it varies between gender and again between how healthy you are, what your health status looks like, what your pharmaceutical profile or toxic load is. All of those factors, all those elements are factored into building your customized plan. Now, let's start right from scratch. I've not had one person come here to date that would not benefit from the cleanse. And listen, the cleanse is no joke. This is the real deal. It is concentrated. It is highly potent. It is all herbal, botanical, and it does what it's supposed to do. So if you have been exposed to chemicals, and 100% of us have, if you have had industrial exposure to chemicals, if you have had prescription drug therapy, that could be for metabolic syndrome, that could be for chronic illness, that could be for cancer, could be chemotherapies. Those don't just go in your mouth and disappear. Your body has to process those, and a lot of that happens right over here in the liver. The liver is a huge organ right underneath your right rib cage, and it processes all of those drugs synthetically made now. You know, when I was a kid, most drugs were made here in America. Well, now they're outsourced abroad. And do you really think the FDA has the resources to perform assays? That's ASSAYS, which is a study of the makeup of that drug. No, they don't have the resources for that. So you're blindly taking medications made abroad because it's a greater price point for them, greater return on investment. Their margin of profit is greater, is what I'm trying to say. So they're coming from abroad, all these countries, they're being shipped in here in cargo containers. The one who benefits the greatest is the pharmaceutical company. It's not you. When has your prescriber told you that you can be placed on a reduction schedule? When has your prescriber told you that you need to be managing your food and this is how you need to be managing your food, or increasing the quality of your food choices and your food categories in your diet? You never hear that. I hear it all the time. I ask people, just indiscriminately, I'll ask people, you know, when's the last time your PCP or your general practitioner have gone over this with you? Never. They just tell me to lose weight. They just tell me I need to lose weight. They just tell me this is going to be a problem until I lose weight. I said, well, what's their What's their plan? That's an idea, but that's not a plan. What's their plan? I don't ever get that. So that's why most folks end up here, right? So I actually prefer that people have had that experience, because albeit that it's negative, it's kind of empty, it leaves you with an empty feeling. That empty feeling creates a vacuum and leaves a void for us to fill. So in a strange way, in a peculiar way, that actually fits our model, that you have been through those models and you've come up empty-handed, and then boom, here we are. You know, somehow we've been connected. So the bottom line is, let's get back to the basics. Let's get back to what we know works. Let's get back to putting out our fires first, then getting the cleanup crew in, and then sending the carpenter for rebuilding, because that is the natural progression of our body to restore itself if you sense your course spiraling downward. And you know, I had a couple come in yesterday, and they're not going to see this video, because if you don't become one of the family, you don't get our email, right? So this couple came in, both of them smokers, and both of them knew ahead of time what they wanted. So, and of course the exchange was just amicable, nothing inflammatory about it. I said, if you know what you want, what do you need me for? And then I was quiet like that. Which, that's how I was trained. I was trained to get people to think and think critically, and if they're going to make a statement, make them defend their statement, you know. So the thing is, as you go through this process, understand that it is a process, okay? It works. Like I told you before, I wasn't kidding when I said I had 100% of people lose weight on this plan. 100%. Is it something I'm doing? Well, Lord, no, I told you that from the start too. I told you I hijacked God's design, just put it in an easy design packet and teach you, instruct you on how to implement it properly, right? Then we custom formulate what supplements. Are most people on a cleansing regimen and a replenishing regimen? Sure they are. Are most people using a detoxification period up front? Sure they are. Because that is the one piece I'm seeing time and time again that's the most crucial. So we can't skip it. Even if you have a deleterious effect with the cleanse. And I had another lady come in today. She said she had she did great on the cleanse at first, then she developed diarrhea. Well, what does that tell you? If your body has diarrhea, if your body develops diarrhea, I should say, it doesn't mean you're sick. It means you've internalized something in your GI tract that your body recognizes foreign, it shouldn't be there, and what does it do? Boom, jerks a cork out real fast and cleans you out. That's a healthy response of the body. And it's the same as the emetic response, which is vomiting. You eat a bad piece of fish, it sits in your stomach under that 100-degree temperature and starts to ferment and whatever else happens, and you bring it back up and regurgitate it. Well, you vomit it up because that's a healthy response to your body. Remember this principle. Our bodies are always pre-programmed innately by God to move us toward better health, not sickness and disease. When we have barriers enter our lives, that's when our body cascades downwardly in a downward spiral and we lose our optimal health. That's what happens. So really my job and your job is going to be basically identifying those barriers, and from there formulating a plan and a protocol or program to handle those barriers, so that when the barriers are finally lifted and removed and handled, your body can go back to functioning at its peak optimal level. That's its design. That's its purpose. That's our purpose here, is to help you achieve that. And it takes time. So I know in our minds and in our culture, we live in an instant gratification society, a microwave culture, right? We want things yesterday. But the reality is you didn't get this way overnight, okay? You didn't accumulate all these toxins overnight. They came in your system over a period of months and years. And it takes time for your body to reverse that process and unload them. And some of the effects of it can be very uncomfortable. Some of them can be unnerving as well. I had a patient who, the sad part of it is, I mishandled part of it. I mishandled the rate at which we introduced the cleanse, because, you know, this is not an excuse, even though it'll sound like one. We can get in a routine of systematizing everything. And, you know, everyone is going to respond to something differently. Everyone's going to respond to food differently. Everyone's going to respond to stress differently. Everyone's going to respond to these natural supplements differently, because they are potent. Just because they're natural and they're not a synthetic chemical from the Philippines doesn't mean they're not going to be impactful, and they are. They're very impactful. They're very efficacious when it comes to detoxifying your system. So, you know, if you had been through a really harsh, rigorous therapy like chemotherapy, your body just doesn't 100% pass those metabolites of that drug you took in. It harbors, it stores, it compartmentalizes. So when you take a formulation like the cleanse that's as potent as the cleanse is, then what we have to do is we have to just test. And the mistake I made was you have to make sure that as time goes on, the body is able to have the proper dosage based on a lag outcome. So what I mean by that is some people do fine on it right away, and for maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months. Some sooner will have a response to that. So you've got to manage that. And the feedback we look for is crucial for the management of that. So that's why I say in day one, please reach out to us immediately so that we can help you optimize these programs, because they do work. They do work in a very constructive and positive way. And when you go through detoxification period, you can experience a lot of different things. You can experience the most common, constipation. Some people experience diarrhea because the body has newly liberated chemicals. It was stored away in fat, but when we start to release chemicals, the body can almost revisit a state of sickness, because now you've got these chemicals that you internalized over years freely floating around your system. And that's why we have you drink so much water, is to flush your system out and get rid of those, because they don't belong there. The body knows it doesn't belong there. And that's why it eliminates in the way it does sometimes. Sometimes the roots are fecal, sometimes the roots are hair. I'm actually doing a metal detox right now for mercury and aluminum, and I have had some hair loss. I have had my exits for this particular protocol. It's an under the tongue spray, is hair root and fecal root. So I know that ultimately there's a greater danger for me to keep the mercury and aluminum in my body than it is for me to lose follicle or have more bowel movements in the process. But this stuff is the real deal, folks. It works incredibly well. I have to remind myself continually to respect its power. And you know, you may not fully understand it yet, but you are in the right place. We detox naturally. We cleanse the system where it's sometimes works too well. But the bottom line is, this is going to promote and support much better health. It doesn't cure diseases. It doesn't cure illnesses or chronic conditions or syndromes you may have been labeled with, but it supports your body's natural ability to heal itself and to repair and restore what you may have lost. Okay, so the postcard or the Reader's Digest version of this is, stick with it, hang in there. Takes time to undo what time has brought into your body, but it will happen, I promise you. Every day we see miracles. Every day we have cases complete where people reach their goals and they come to us for encouragement and guidance and assistance and facilitation. So that's what we are here for. Reach out to us. We're not above saying we're sorry or we could have handled that situation better or dosed more effectively, and that's just part of practice. That's why every doctor's clinics are called practices, because you know, when you have individual people coming in, day out, day in, day out, they all respond differently, and there is no science to it. There is absolutely no science to it. So God bless you. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you have not. That way you get automatic notification that we have submitted another one to be viewed. And please share with those who are family, friends, loved ones, co-workers, not necessarily in that order, who you know would benefit from our care, our weight loss program, being it all natural, or our nutrition response testing, which has been the most impactful thing in my life in terms of healthcare to date. God bless you. Have a terrific Wednesday, and I will talk to you soon.